Welcome back, all you beautiful souls, to another episode of Aligned and Alive. I'm your host, Chrissy May, and today I have an incredible guest who is a psychic medium, shaman, and author. He is one of the only master trance channelers to channel publicly to live gatherings and online groups and give personal individual messages to each person regarding their soul's path. These weekly gatherings, called the Circle of Light, have helped humanity answer every type of human concern, from individuals who want to explore their spiritual path to individuals who are experiencing extreme trauma and pain in their life. All come to the Circle of Light to receive wisdom, support, and clarity about their situation, and most importantly, how to surrender to their higher selves and their highest potential, which is what this podcast is all about, a space to explore and come alive. It's an honor to sit and share in conversation today with Riz Mirza. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Chrissy. Hey, everyone. Thank you. Happy New Year, even if you're watching this 2 years from now. That's the great thing about all of these videos, everything we're watching on the internet. It's kind of given us this way to be timeless because
Mm.
I get a lot of people say, well, there's nothing in the past for you. I go, let me tell you something. When I go on YouTube and I see some commercials for like breakfast cereal when I was a kid, and they're on YouTube, stuff I used to watch.
I love that. That's one of my favorite things, the 1980s commercials still.
Yes, yes. And 80s or 90s, I mean, it triggers this part of you that was still so hopeful, still didn't really like we believed in that magic that kind of pop culture brought us to, right? And it's not that it was a fantasy or it was fake. What it was doing was that it was saying, this is the magic that's inside of you. And even those little cartoons or breakfast cereals were saying, and we know it's inside of you. And it was just a way for us to, I think, to get through, right? So we're all here doing our healing modalities, we're meditating, we're getting our yoga on, our workouts, eating healthier, doing our anti-aging. And at the same time, what about the innocence and the fun? How do we surrender to that? So I'm so glad you brought up surrender when you did the intro
Mm.
today.
Yeah, I feel we need more of that, more surrender. And actually, what's interesting is real quick, talk about being divinely guided. And
Mm.
I was just scrolling away on Instagram just a few weeks ago for those listeners and viewers wondering how I met Riz. And I came across one of my favorite podcasts, which is Heal Squad with the lovely Maria Menounos.
Ria
And
Menounos, shout out to her.
yes, oh
What a
my gosh,
warrior, what a peaceful warrior she is.
that's perfectly said. Peaceful warrior. That's her in a nutshell.
Mhm.
And surrender, that's what your exchange was about. It was surrender to love. And I believe the question was, have you lost when you surrender to love? And you said no, you've won. That surrendering to a feeling of light. And what stood out was when you mentioned that the light that is already within us, those cracks we always talk about. So many people say, let the light in. And you specifically said it's about letting the light out.
You got it. Because
It,
that
oh,
statement, the cracks are to let the light in, is kind of inspiring. Like, yes, just receive the light. But listen, you were born from the light. You are part of the light. You shall return to the light. You're actually never separated from it unless you let the shadows become your predominant vibration or the way you look at things. And over thousands of years, and certainly modern history, we're hearing all the teachers and the gurus and the experts and the seminars and the self-help and the people who want to be in transformational, who listen to your speakers like the great Tony Robbins, and then you
mhm.
have people who are listening to channelers. Everything, to each his own. Everyone's got the flavor that they like, where the message gets through to them. But throughout all of those things that I've seen, and we're kind of there's a there's so much of it, right? Overstimulation of all this
Mhm.
self-help. But I don't really know if it's overstimulation because I think it's that we need even more of it. And that even though these messages are universal, you'll start to hear the same principles, returning to your true self, discovering that. What I teach is the way of surrender is the way to victory, and that the person that you wish to be, the person that you envision yourself to be in the future, tomorrow, next week, 10 years from now, that person is not far away. They're sitting where you are right now watching this podcast. They're sitting inside of you right now. And you are the one who's kind of protecting them and trying to get them there so they can come out. And what I try to tell you is if you surrender to them, they are the one with the magic, right? That's
Hmm.
why you want to bring them out. That version of yourself, that truth of yourself, is the one whom you need to let take over, have the pass over the steering wheel to them so that they can show you their magic and that the battles are over when you say the battles are over. And so the coast is clear. Let that magical one out. So surrender is a word, Chrissy, that's dragged through the mud. We grow up in school and people say the word surrender is when you lost. The army surrendered. The other team surrendered. I gave up in the fight. I surrendered. But it's different because when you surrender to the music, that's when you can dance. When you surrender to love, that's when you can actually feel loved and feel the power of it. When you surrender to the rain, it no longer becomes this thing that's annoying you. You just let it shower down on you and cleanse you. So that's why I say the surrender is the ultimate path to victory,
And the ultimate path to freedom.
which is victory.
Yes. Yeah. There are so much similarities in the messaging right now, like you just
Mm.
mentioned. And that's why I love the variety coming from different people and perspectives.
I agree with you. And I want to just rewind just a little bit. There's a lot of similarities, but I do have to say that there's some key differences that I see going on in the world of what we're teaching people and what we're doing a lot of manifestation and abundance.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful words, but it's like manifesting the life you want, getting the abundance you want. Go to Barnes and Noble, you know how many books are there. Scroll through Instagram, you know how many programs and courses there are. There comes a time where you have to pull your lens back and say, where's the power of the now? Because it sounds like everything is in later, and I have to do things now to get those things later. That's just another way of saying what my parents told me. Work hard now, Riz, and then you'll have the rewards later. But I've seen a lot of people working hard that never got any rewards.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the truth here? Is it just another fancy way of saying, do all the work and then you'll get it later? And that's the principle of life. Well, gratitude was never about what you're going to get. Gratitude, which is the most powerful force that will bring peace in the universe. If everyone was grateful for what they have, do you think that there would be wars? Wars are to get something from someone else, or they are because you feel someone did something to you, or you're afraid they're going to do something to you. Even after all that stuff plays out, in the end, you guys know this, in the end, your gratitude is all that you're going to be left with. And I've always believed that gratitude is your key and your bridge back to your sanity.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing that in the now has power is going to be your gratitude and your love. Ambition, after a while, it tends to become this a fuel source that runs kind of it runs short. It's not sustainable. It's not doesn't even burn clean, ambition, because it's about a destination. And once you get there, you rest. You kind of trade in the fear and the anxiety and the misery of trying to get what you want until you get what you want. And then you trade that in for how do I keep what I got? So where's that? There's just a little period of enjoyment. And then it's, well, back to work. Now I got to protect everything. So this is what I want to get people out of and come into. How do you really surrender to that? The now
Mm-hmm.
is always forever. I saw that years ago. I had this idea for a clock that didn't have numbers; it just said now. And then, of course, somebody did it years later because I didn't do it. You know, you don't use it, you lose it, right? When the idea comes to you. But that is what we're doing. I feel that's what you're doing, Chrissy, and the work that you're doing is so important because you're present with people. You are showing who you are as you move through life, as you move through all the stages of your life, you're sharing. And that breaking that wall of this idea of what is perfection. Perfection is eternal. It's always perfect.
Mm. I like
but
that.
it doesn't mean it's the way you want. That's the distinction, right?
I thank you for sharing that. I think about it when you're talking right now, and I feel that I've noticed that the more I have surrendered these last few years, have created this community that is so unbelievably
Yeah,
strong and
yeah,
powerful, and we're all
yeah,
so vulnerable. And realizing
yeah.
that just because you're in a position of the public eye, you don't have to show up perfect. It's just getting into that to that role and just speaking your truth and leading from a place of love and being genuine in the process. I think is so important because there's so many leaders right now. And I wanted to talk about this with
Mm,
unraveling the code, unlearning the programming and all this stuff, the
mm,
impact of societal programming
mm,
that's going on, the fear mongering and the
mm,
matrix, however you want to word it, right? There's so many
mm.
words we can talk about, but I don't see a whole lot of genuine authenticity online as a whole. I see a lot
Yeah.
of this is my way and I'm leading you in this direction, but it's more of manipulation, it's more of spiritual narcissism. And
Mm.
so I would love just to hear your thoughts on that and how we as a collective can really start identifying this and dismantling these ingrained thought patterns so we can rise to a higher level of consciousness and allow that light to shine bright.
It's beautiful what you're saying. The problem that we can possibly face with that is it becomes who is thinking correctly. And the idea is that if we can just get them to think the way we think, then the consciousness will be there for the planet. I don't know if that's going to happen because I have a different idea about what life on Earth is about. See, I see Earth as we say the word planet. In the word planet is the word plane, a plane of existence. I believe that this is a school here. I don't necessarily yet think it's about the perfection of all of reality to happen on Earth itself. Now we're going into the cosmic. Let's talk about the aliens.
Yeah. I like
Let's zoom out. Let's just zoom. We have to zoom out,
mm,
right? Because even in our lives, when we check everything off the list, got the house, got the partner, got the money, got the health, got the kids, got the this, got the that, got the bank accounts enough to live on for the rest of my life comfortably. I'm okay. Neighborhood safe. Everybody's safe. Okay, are you happy? Because there's people who have all of that. They're not happy.
right.
There's not just one person who has that. There's a lot of people who have that and they're not happy. So now I have to zoom out because I already have they say the exception is the rule. Okay, let me zoom out now. Let me go to the cosmic perspective. So as a channeler and as a medium, I come from it from a little different perspective than just navigating through life and creating all those wonderful things. I'm going to just zoom out and go, all right, so what is Earth? Number one, is Earth designed to live forever? Do you want Earth to be here 6 trillion years from now? Why? What is it to you? Well, I care about the people 6 trillion years from now. Do you? I don't know if you do. Maybe you care about 3 generations, right? I don't know. The point is, as an entity, just logically speaking, probably the Earth will not be here one day. Don't worry. Let's go through this conversation. We're going to go through the shadows right now. Let's imagine it. We've all imagined the worst in our lives anyway. What if I died tomorrow? What if this happened? Let's go through this. So, what if the Earth was not here in, I don't know, 10,000 years? Would it be a shame? Someone will say, yes, it's a shame. But do you think that we won't exist? Do you think the energy, the consciousness that are the dolphins and the ladybugs and the wildebeest and the trees and the forest and the mountains, do you think that consciousness that you say you believe because you're spiritual, everyone believes that. So do you think that that won't exist? And do you think that that won't manifest in another dimension, in another place, whatever your belief system is? Let's just blow our minds right now. What about the consciousness that exists, the intelligence and the love and the power that became partly this planet, which we can clearly see if we're paying attention, is a school. Everything constantly is about learning and relearning. We're still trying to learn love. 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old. Did we get it yet? Trying to understand communication. Did I get it yet? Well, but you can't communicate to everyone, right? Because they haven't learned communication skills. Now we're back to, so they should think the way you think. See, this will really start to short circuit your brain waves. So the only way out of that whole mess, because it's going to snowball if I go down that track of where I'm going, to let's hold back. I mean, let's stop for a second and go, all right, do I need everyone to act and think the same way I do? Unless otherwise I won't have peace, because that's what's going on right now. If my guy wins for president, whoever that may be, my person wins for president, whatever, then you'll be happy. Will you? You'll be happy while you're battling. The other team is still mad that their person didn't win. I don't care as long as my person wins. So the focus is on politics. What about religions? That religion's growing and that religion's diminishing. Okay, so now it's teams. Oh, speaking of teams, Super Bowl. There's going to be 50% of people who are really upset at the Super Bowl, and 50% will be very happy, all because of the outcome of that one day. How do we get past this? Because this isn't changing. If your team doesn't win, you're upset. Okay, so that's it. Yep. And so how long will you stick with that team? What if your team at the Super Bowl loses you get in the Super Bowl every year, and for the next 20 years they lose? Will you still be a fan? Most people will say yes to the bitter end. And I go, maybe that's your problem, is that it's more about that than anything else. You're not actually flowing with it. If you really want to win, you want a feeling of winning, I don't know, root for the other team.
Yeah.
Can't root for the team. They
Yeah.
believe in what I don't believe in. Okay, so just admit that you're willing to go down with your beliefs. I'm not judging it. I'm just going, just admit that part. Get very clear with yourself. You imagine going to a person, a sports fan, we all know them, maybe you're one, and say, hey, if your team is losing and you want to feel better, just dump your team and root for the other team. You'll be winning. Now your team is winning because now you're rooting for that team. And now you can celebrate with the rest of us in 2 hours when this team wins. Don't you want to celebrate? Didn't you want to hang out with us and have a beer and have a party till tomorrow? It's all about your beliefs and what your perspective is. So what do we do here? Because your wisdom and your logic will tell you that this isn't about to change. And this year, if you want peace, it's not going to be about your team winning.
So what's
It's
the
a waste of your
solution?
energy. What's the solution?
What's the solution to
Is
getting
that you
there?
become aware that your reactions to everything is what's creating your mood and well-being. So you can think that the world is unconscious and you're walking around all day. The world is unconscious. Oh, there's one good person. That's meager. Why don't you just help people? And it doesn't matter what they believe. Why don't you just smile at people? All this, who's conscious and who's not conscious, my community is who's in front of me at any moment in my day. That's my community. So when I sage my house, I always sage the neighbors. Like I go, hope they get everything that makes them joyful and peaceful, and I just wave it around. May they be more at peace. Not a judgment. I actually wish that for someone because I do think that if we're all more at peace, then everything else becomes more at peace. And how do you become more at peace? You start becoming grateful. So, yeah, I'm going to practice. I got a gratitude journal. Good. How long are you going to keep that gratitude journal? How long do you need that gratitude journal? Are you going to need it for 17 years? I don't know if it's working then.
Well, it becomes another checklist too, I feel like. It's another
I
thing
thank
to,
you.
it
Thank
adds.
you. You all these lists, guys, all these to-do lists and not many to-be lists.
Yeah.
To be more peaceful now, not after 17 yoga classes.
Right.
Love yoga. But man, there comes a point because everyone has this aspect of them inside of them, which is, I call it the hero. That you may be tired right now and you may be depressed, but all you need is some good news. You get some good news, which simply means news that you want. Because remember, you've gotten good news before, and then something that you didn't like was part of that. So you get the good news, and suddenly it could be 3 in the morning. You get news that excites you, and you will jump up. That's because you believe in the information being said to you. It could just be a text or a phone call giving you the news. You don't really have proof yet, but you read it, you absorb it, and suddenly you're up. Wow. Well, where was that energy before? Oh, I just needed proof, someone else to tell me. Okay, beautiful. That's why we have teachers. That's why you have gurus. That's why you have healers to remind you of that there are more possibilities and to breathe those realities into existence, but can only come from not you wishing that it would happen, but you realizing that that feeling that you're seeking, that you're going to get when you get the things on the list, that feeling that you're seeking is actually the essence and the truth of who you are and what you are. And that's not then when you get it, it's here. But again, now we're back to you keeping that part of yourself, in a sense, hostage. And it's almost like the world is doing hostage negotiations with you. So you're going to keep your magical version of you hostage, the totally out, totally fully expressed version of yourself. You're going to keep that person hostage until you believe that now it's safe for that version of you to come out here. When will that be? When everything you want about the world is checked off. We don't have that kind of time. Earth is a transitory school, my friends, if you haven't figured it out. Even religions tried to tell you it's transitory. not
Yeah.
just not just the new age, but the religions. New age, by the way, is the old age. I consider religions the new age. They're very recent. Anything 5,000, 10,000 years old is new. What we call the new age now, metaphysical, understanding earth, cosmos, dimensions, etheric energy, spirit guides, ancestors, anything in that realm is what has been around before all religions. So what is the old age and what is the new age? Clearly, this is the old age, the ancient teachings.
Powerful. All of it. How do you get somebody for you and me, it's easy to lead with love. It's easy to wish wonderful things on people. It's easy. For
Yeah.
me, it's in me. And for you, I can see it's in you.
Yeah.
How do we get the people that are so ingrained in the programming right now, that are so obsessed and over
Yeah.
analyzing? They're in their monkey
I
mind
get you.
all the
Yeah.
time. How do we get them out of this repetitive
We
top?
help them. There's two ways. One is you can help them burn themselves out. I'm going to give you an example. People ask me all the time about channeling and the messages from the spirit guides. So people come and sit around at my circle of light. It's been going on for close to 2 decades now. That's a lot of channeling circles. It's probably over 2,500. So channeling circles are basically where I channel a spirit guide. They're master, wise, ascended master teacher beings. Look it up. My videos are on my social media. You can watch and just take in the messages. Red Eagle was one of the guides that I channeled. This is some years ago. A woman came to the circle and asked him a question. She said, I just have one question. It's not going to take long. Is this trip to, I think it was Kauai, going to be a good trip? And I just feel it's everything that I need. And this is what I'm going there for a year. I'm going to live there. And Red Eagle said, absolutely. She goes, thank you. That's it. He goes, you don't have any other questions? She said, no. He said, okay. She goes, thank you so much for the confirmation. Feels really good. All my spirit guides also, I feel, yes, it's a confirmation of everything that I've been attuning to. Cut to a year and a half later, she comes back to the circle. And she says to Red Eagle, it's a true story. I was here a year and a half ago. And I'm sure you don't remember me. She's talking to the spirit guide. And I had asked you this question. And you had said, absolutely. That you confirmed that it was going to be great for me. It's going to be a great trip and all of that. And he says, Red Eagle says to her, well, what's your question? She goes, well, I never made it there. She goes, I was at LAX the next day with all of my bags and I slipped at the airport and busted both of my knees. And I've been in physical therapy since, and it's been excruciating. He said, what's your question? She said, well, why'd you say it was going to be a good trip? And he said, well, you tripped, didn't you? At the airport and fell.
Yeah, yeah,
And she says, I knew it. Thank you again for confirming. It was the best, got my life out of it. I think I would have just rotted in Kauai. blaming everyone and saying now I'm in my safe space when actually I just need to surrender. So sometimes a person needs to do that to get out of the matrix. How do you have freedom within a structure and a form that maybe you can't do anything about? How do ballet dancers dance within this very strict form of ballet? If any of you out there have done ballet, there are movements that are just ballet movements, and any movement outside of those movements is not ballet. You're not going to start doing African dance in a ballet. It's not ballet. So it's this very strict form. And yet the amazing artist, the amazing ballet dancer has extreme freedom within that form. What if you leave this matrix, which is the way of thinking, and you get to the other side, which you believe is the side, the truth? I want to go home. I want to leave this simulation. This is not a simulation. A simulation, by definition, is that which is simulating something else. This is not simulating anything else. Yes, we will dissolve, and this physical body will dissolve into nothingness. And maybe the earth won't be here, but the consciousness of the intelligence of the spiritual energy that we are will always be, if you say so and you believe it. So, what if you go to the other side and they're like, this isn't actually the real other side. This is all transitory. Then you go, oh, we got to go home to the star system that I'm from. I think I'm from another planet. You may be. You may have had a lifetime there. Nobody knows. Maybe you know though. Okay. But then what is the real? We're always like, what is the real? What is the true? What is the exact? I want to know. What you're talking about, Chrissy, is the suffering that you see people going through in the loop of happy, sad, reward, punishment, satisfied and unsatisfied, and you see it endlessly. I think that the work that you're doing and others like you are doing is about getting them out of the cycle of when I have that, then I'll be happy. Would that be safe to say?
Absolutely.
Okay. So then by that definition, that was my cosmic definition, then getting people out of that is sometimes they have to really suffer. Didn't you? Didn't I?
Yep.
I'm a medium because the four people closest to me in my life died. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I would have done something else. I was an artist. I mean, I still do my art, but that was my career, everything. But it wasn't to be. My message wasn't going to be through that at the time. It was going to be through this work. But I had to have firepower. So I talk to you. Sometimes I talk to my clients where it looks like I care more about their situation than they do. It looks like that. It's not that. It's just they're exhausted and they're collapsing. And I got to go over and go, hey, hey, I'm here. You're here. Can you feel this? And they'll say, no, I can't feel it. We've all been there. Can't even freaking feel it. And then I go, just be still for a while. But you needed a big explosion of energy collapsing at the finish line of life. Maybe it's an illness. Maybe it's losing someone. Maybe it's a heartbreak. Maybe it's losing all your money in your job in the pandemic, whatever it was. I've heard so many incredible stories about what happened during the pandemic. I've heard more success stories than I've heard tragedy. People got their life out of that. What do you have to say about that? Because I'm looking at your eyes. I'm like, she knows something.
Take away the obvious from that situation.
Mm.
I believe it was a beautiful thing that happened in so many
Wow.
ways, in so
Yeah.
many ways, like breaking down barriers and and not only that, but cracking open people's levels of consciousness that they never thought of before because they were on the hamster wheel of going and going and going and never even saw anything. And then, boop,
I
guess
love
what?
that you said hamster wheel because once you're thrown off that hamster wheel, you need some time to lay on the ground because even if you're on a hamster wheel for many years and you step off, you're going to be dizzy.
Yeah.
So you need to just like lay down. That's why sometimes illnesses make us lay down. Losing things usually makes us lay down. What I try to teach people is, can I get you to be so grateful and so in wonder at the world rather than shock?
Yeah.
Can you turn your shock into wonder? Because we label people, we say they're this, and that could be a negative title we give them. The only reason they are that is because they are in pain and they're afraid. So why am I going to now throw another label on them? I'm doing to them what other people did to them that made them that way in the first place. So I'm throwing more dust and dirt and crap on them by calling them a particular name. When I know, and I've lived long enough to know, that when you're hurt, you a lot of time you tend to act out
Yeah.
in ways that are unpleasant for other people. So you're right. The pandemic was there, the lockdown was there to lock us down. Lock us down. Like, when we go, let's get locked down in this relationship.
Yeah.
It is like, okay, what happened during that time? The singular event in human history, whether you think it was a pandemic or a plandemic, I don't care what the truth is about it. What it gave us was I appreciate being home and I am appreciating being outside. I'm appreciating seeing my friends and family, and I'm appreciating not seeing my friends and family. I'm appreciating having a job and I'm appreciating not having a job. The list goes on. We were given that opportunity, whether some did and some didn't. The point is, we were given that opportunity, and it was a singular event in human history that affected every single person on the planet at the same time in the same way. Meaning, you had to stay in, you had to wear a mask or whatever. Not even the religions did that. Not even the Great Flood went everywhere on the planet, but this did. And that's why my great teacher, my mentor in channeling, his name was Alex Murray. He's since passed on to the other side. He told me in 2012, remember when 2012 was happening, the Mayan calendar?
Oh, yeah.
And I said, "Oh, Alex, what are we going to do something at, 2012? Are you going to do something? I'm going to be holding a channeling circle that night. Are you?" I called, he was in New York. And he said, "Oh, Riz," he was much older. That was his voice. "Oh, Riz." He said, "The Mayan calendar, they're misinterpreting it. It's actually in 8 years. It's not now. You have nothing to think about now." He said that in 2012. Cut to
Wow.
2020, right? 8 years
2020.
later. And I remember saying to myself, oh, maybe Alex is getting old. 8 years? Come on, Alex. It can't be off by 8 years. Sometimes don't doubt your teachers and the wild things that they say. They can come true. Your teachers, many of them are in tune to, they're on another level, right? So we're teaching people how to find peace amongst a perspective that the world is chaotic. Not that the world is chaotic, a perspective that the world is chaotic. Because in many ways, there are people who care about each other more than ever before. We are being brought together by technology. Any tool is going to bring us together and also show us where all these negative energies are, which is all biases and prejudices and racisms and judgments. So, but we're more connected. And when we're more connected, we at least have dialogue when we're connected. Back 200 years ago, 300 years ago, it was all about sailing to another country, battling it out, and then establishing opposing governments, so to speak. It's not really about that anymore. People, because they're communicating, they're able to share these ideas. And we're in the process. We are in what's called the rebirth process. But those of us who are consciously on the path, because we're all on the path, Chrissy. The path, it doesn't matter. People go, oh, I'm on my spiritual path. I go, why? Because you're doing yoga and meditation
Sound
and
healing
going
and
in my
Reiki.
channeling circle. That doesn't, if you could be a crackhead in the alleyway struggling for your life, and that's your spiritual path.
Mm.
So it's not your spiritual path that you're coming to see a channeler or a speaker. You can never step off your spiritual path. It is, are you consciously on your spiritual path? Meaning you're aware that this is for me. So whether it is tripping and breaking your ankle, you're not getting to go to Hawaii, or whether it is that you are suffering through substance addictions and you're at your worst point, your consciousness, being aware of it, is unextinguishable, because that shows that you are not the body, you are not your personality, you are not your mind. You are the eternalness of the energy that is everything. and you are expressing
Yes.
yourself in that. So that's when you go, oh, I'm awakening, not woke, whatever people
Yeah.
like to. Amazing how human beings we are, what kind of creatures we are. We can take a word and then make that bad. So awakened is not certainly not the same thing as woke, right?
Right.
Awakened is a personal surrender to your peace and wonder at the world and amazement rather than shock and disdain. And a lot of times when the negative connotation of woke is that it's in judgment of who's wrong and what they are doing wrong. Nobody wants to be told what they're doing wrong.
Never. I hear what you're saying, and I have a question that just is triggering right now as you're speaking, and that is relationships that are going through navigating this journey of awakening to what you're just talking about, and then the other parties are still stuck in this other world and dimension. How do you navigate that, especially when you're talking, marriages and significant others or the dating environment? Because I feel like it's just so, at
Yeah.
least in my circle, I should speak from my circle, I see a
Yeah.
lot of it, where half of us are going to this like evolved upgrading state and the other ones are like,
Yes.
wait, 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 where are you going? What's this
Right.
all about?
And sometimes people say, when you go to the more evolved state, it's a little bit more lonely.
It is. It can be. It can be for
It
sure.
can be. Of course it can be because you're doing something that not most people are doing. So it's going to take a little bit longer, perhaps, to call in someone that does vibe and flow in the direction you're going. But there is something that is I can always tell you can that I can tell you can always count on, which is the universe operates on frequency matching. What does that mean? That means that whatever frequency is underneath the current, that is running underneath the personality, that means the deeper belief systems that is running the show, the programmed beliefs. A lot of parents know this. Sometimes parents will be very modern. I'm going to treat my kids great. And then when they become a parent, something spews out of their mouth that their dad or mom would have said. And like, oh my God, where did that come from? Oh, that's where you actually are in line, in tune with those beliefs more than what your personality says you are. So we're discovering our core beliefs. Our core beliefs run the show. I'll tell you funny examples. We're all, man, human beings, sometimes we can be so judgmental. We'll see a person that we think is way more attractive than the other person, but they're together. And then we'll say, well, here's why. Probably he or she or they have this or that.
So true.
Oh, but we never say that person must be just shining and rocking in their confidence and their energy where they know they are beautiful, even though you think they aren't and you think the other person is more beautiful. And that's what we do. So what I say is that the frequency that you're on is going to attract what you're attracting. And that is hard for people to believe. That's where people check out of the conversation. They go, no, 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 no. I'm really loyal and I keep attracting cheaters. So are you saying I'm a cheater? No. I said you're on the frequency of making the idea of what is called cheating, which is your place of fear, anger, and trigger.
Yeah.
That becomes the real trigger point that's under the surface. So you're going to call in people who bring out what's under the surface. So what am I supposed to do then? Am I supposed to just accept that people are cheaters? Yeah, you are. Some are. Maybe everybody has done that at some point. I don't know. Let's not get into this. That's just a specific thing I'm talking about. I'm just talking about frequency. It could be just about business. It could be about health. It could be about how we feel about ourselves, about beauty. Sometimes you could become the most beautiful person through surgery and fitness and all of that, but inside you don't feel good. So that frequency then will match and have people show up, even though now you've changed everything on the outside. But the belief, the hole, the vacuum, the pit has not been healed and filled with fertile soil. And so that's what I try to work with people on. If you believe everything is energy and frequency, then understand that the frequency of your core beliefs is what is bringing things in. When you let go, that's when wild creativity starts to happen. David Bowie, You know who David Bowie
Oh,
is.
sure.
Maybe
Yeah.
if the younger listeners don't know, look him up. Blazing pop star from England. And he had said this about creativity. He said, if you're walking in the water and your feet are touching the bottom of the pool or the ocean, and then you keep walking deeper into the water, and then your toes no longer touch the bottom, you know that moment?
Mm-hmm.
Now you're up here. Oh, there's no ground underneath.
Yeah.
He goes, if you create right there, you probably are starting, you have a very good chance of creating something that's interesting, that will spark people. And that is surrendering then again to who you are, not being worried about judgment. When I came into the spiritual space, people were like, you can't have a mohawk and you can't be wearing eyeliner and you can't be wearing these rings. You can't be this and you can't be that. People, why do you have that tattoo of a pyramid of an eye? Isn't that the Illuminati? I go, no, genius. Go take an art class and you'll see it's actually the eye of God that was painted in paintings from the 15th century in churches. It's just the eye of God. And by the way, I didn't even know it was the eye of God. I just liked the eye and the pyramid because I'm into the pyramids. And I was like, wow. So you can't express yourself because somebody's supposed to look a certain way. I mean, you're so caught up on that. This is the level that we're at. And what we're seeing on the internet is that we're just living in this comment generation. People will be watching this video and wanting to comment on you, on me, whether it's good or bad, whether it's, what is that? I have to say this. Oh, if it's not positive for the other person, why are you saying it? Is it to help them? Is it that you just like to spew? So we're spewing too right now, right? There's a moment when you're sick, you have to vomit, don't you? So, Christy, there's a moment of vomiting going on in the world. There is a moment of, even though that's vomiting, it's still a form of healing because finally it's out. So, how do you stop taking in more poison that makes you vomit? Well, first thing you can do is you don't have to look at things you don't want to look at. You know, it's funny. All of us, we watch YouTube videos that we like. And then if you read the comments, there are people watching who hate that person.
I know. It's so crazy.
I have never, for more than 10 seconds, watched a person that I don't like on YouTube, even made a comment. I've never even watched for more than 10 seconds. Because what am I doing with my life? This is for me. I don't, it's not, it's irrelevant for me to do that. It doesn't speak to who I am because I'm sure that there were times in my life where if I look back, somebody plays me the video of my life. There are probably points in my life when I was younger that were things that I said that maybe now I would consider outrageous.
Right.
Why did I say that?
But I think it's just our evolution, you know. I mean,
Thank you.
for me,
Yeah.
I don't look at people and just think horrible thoughts because, and I have to say this, and this is complete
You
transparent.
don't,
No, like I'm
but
happy
you know,
within. I'm happy within. So therefore, I don't have it in me to sit and just judge all day long because I'm too busy creating and being happy and creating this
thank you. So
energy.
creation, you got it. So let's talk about creation. Since we talked when David Bowie said that, talk about creation.
Yeah.
When we are not creating, that's when we feel dead or we're dying. Those creations, let's talk about the word creation and the word reaction. Same letters, just move them around. You either are going to stay in the reaction of something that occurred or a thought that you're having. Either you're going to stay in that reaction or you're going to move from that reaction into a creation. We value creation more than anything on earth. More than anything on earth. I'll tell you why. Because even our God, we don't call our God the doer, the seer, the beer. We call our God the creator. Whatever your God is, you still
Yep.
refer to as the creation source, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
means that on earth, we value creation the most. That's why even in the worst economic times, we like entertainment because there's creative energy going on. And that creative energy then recreates you. And that's why we call it recreation. Recreational activities are recreational activities. That could be anything from going to see a movie and doing something that you think isn't spiritual to doing something that you go, this is the transformational healing experience for me. Everything we're talking about now is about no longer in reaction, not staying in it. Sometimes the reaction is anger, but you can't stay in anger and build a life on that. Martin Luther King, he had first he had to be angry. Gandhi first had to be angry at what he saw. This isn't right. Made him sad, hurt his feelings, then got angry. I got to do something about this. This has to stop. But then it turned more into peace. Hey, everyone, we all can be at peace. That's where you're the alchemist. That's when you're going from reaction into creation. English is a magical language. Look at the other words, listen and silent. If you want to be able to listen, you must be silent. Again, the same letters.
Mm.
Sacred and scared, same letters. That which scared you contains within it something sacred for you. A teaching, a lesson, a breakthrough, and that which you were scared of before. So we start to go, isn't this interesting who I attracted? Is it them or is it me? It's neither. It's understanding frequency.
Interesting, because I would have said it all comes back to self, that we are the co-creators of our experiences and existence. So it's interesting that you said that, because I've always at least held the perspective that I am I am responsible for my being, my frequency, my emotions, my everything that I'm emitting out into the universe. And so that's
Yeah,
interesting you said that, because I've
I
always
agree with you.
felt, yeah.
So where do emotions come from? That's what I ask people. That's one of the classes I teach. It's the first thing I say, I go, where do emotions come from? And look, it's not a test. It's just kind of a launch to a conversation. So where would you say emotions come from?
I would say they come from a feeling, and that's oftentimes triggered by an event or a situation that causes an emotion to arise within us.
Yes, but let's make sure that, and I agree with you, but let's make sure that we say emotions are a feeling, right?
Right. Same,
That's what an emotion
similar.
is. So
Yeah.
they can't
Mm-hmm.
come from a feeling. They are the feeling. So now that emotion comes from what you just said. What was that? The reaction.
Triggered by an event.
Okay. So it's triggered by an event, which could be even a thought
Right. Exactly.
or something you imagined.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this means then where do our reactions come from? Our beliefs about what should be and what should not be.
Programming, right? To some degree.
It can certainly be because if you grow up in a tribal culture in the forest or jungle somewhere, when someone dies, half of the ceremony is celebrating that they get to go see the ancestors. And it is legit celebration because they are raised from the time they come out of their mother's blessed womb that the ancestors are going to call us home. And so when they are in the woods and hunting the deer or climbing the tree or building the fire or taking the sacred medicine ceremonies together where they are connecting to the ancestors through the so-called hallucinogenic plant, because hallucinations do not exist. Hallucinations are basically when you are seeing what is there. When you do not see the tree breathing, that is when you are hallucinating. When you do see the tree breathing, that's when you're actually seeing what's going on. So when they're doing all of these sacred tribal things together and they are raised in that teaching, you can call it a program. So when somebody dies and the bear comes and attacks their brother, they go, we're going to kill that bear. And when we kill that bear, we're going to tell the bear family, we have to take your brother because you took our brother, and bless you, teacher bear, for coming, and bless our brother for being lucky enough to be taken by this brother bear to the ancestors. And there are people in that ceremony who are going, and I wish I could go to the ancestors. Not I wish I could die because I hate this world. They don't see this world as that. They see this world as the portion of the dream. So programming. You are blessed because you are programmable, not cursed because you are programmable. Everything about you is programmable. And that is where all of this incredible sacred power and energy lies, because the moment you deprogram and reprogram, and then reprogram and deprogram, and program and deprogram and reprogram endlessly, There's your freedom. How do we define freedom? I have a definition. I want to throw it out to you.
I'd
Ready?
love to hear it.
Freedom is your ability to feel any amount of love at any given time that you choose. Think on it. Drop it in. Drop it into your wheelhouse. Meaning I can feel as much love as I want at any time? Yes. What if you didn't have that ability? Well, I wouldn't think that you're very free. Doesn't mean you're not nice and not smart. It just means I don't know about the freedom, but according to that definition, because what do you want in the end? Do you want to be able to feel love? My God, I had somebody tell me the other day, do you know that there's a frequency higher than love on other planets? Love isn't the highest frequency. I go, wow, we are smoking the woke metaphysical pipe a little too much.
What is it? What was the answer?
They didn't have an answer. They just said that somebody told them that.
Oh,
I
so
said,
there's no.
I'm
Okay.
going to counter you with this. I don't think peace is the highest frequency on earth. I think it's celebration. If we had 7 billion people celebrating together, that would be amazing.
Mm.
7 people, 7 million, 7 billion. Did I say billion? 7 billion people on earth celebrating together is better than 7 billion people on earth meditating together. I like them both, but I prefer the party.
That
Imagine
that type of energy might make the earth combust because that's a lot of
they can combust
power.
then, and then we'll go to the next dimension.
Exactly.
We'll still
That's
be here, everyone. What I'm
I,
saying is, I'm not saying forget about this earth. What I'm saying is, once you know that, now you have the freedom to understand how we are interacting better without all of this. Actually, the doomsday mentality, I don't have a doomsday mentality, but I'm saying the earth will not be here forever.
right.
The people who think we got to keep it here because it can all end, that's the doomsday mentality. Once you know that you are eternal, which is what a lot of awakening, spiritual awakening is about, it's funny enough, you have to kind of die 10,000 times in this life emotionally to understand that you can be eternal and that you are eternal. So when you are approaching from that there's a deadline and things are going to get worse and then it's all going to go, rather than all of this is building up to oneness, what would happen inside of you if you let all of those universes explode? What would happen in the end? You would just be what we call, now I'm a oneness. I'm all one now, rather than alone.
Mm.
All one, write it out, 2 words, all one. And then right underneath it, alone. The word alone used to come from 2 words, all one. But if you see somebody and you say, how are you? And they go, I'm alone. And you see another person, you go up to them and they say, how are you? You say, how are you? And they say, I'm all one. Wow. Well, let me let that land. That was awesome. That's what I would think. So every day, these things that we're talking about right now are not about that you're constantly on high. What these things that we're talking about is that you can drop in with all of your experiences actually, and you can say, I co-created this. This certainly, if it's in front of me, it's certainly part of my path. So let me surrender to that instead of saying this shouldn't be right. Well, let's go back to our reactions. So you said the emotions come from your reactions that are triggered by things that are happening or are thought. Yes, powerful. But then what creates reactions? The reaction that you have is based on the belief that you hold, whether something should be like that or not.
Mm.
Mothers are supposed to do this. Big brothers are supposed to do that. Teachers are supposed to do this. And then if they don't, what, you lost? Maybe they weren't supposed to do that because you are supposed to bring that out in your life and your path. So the solution to peace for yourself on a personal level and healing from trauma is not to get what you didn't get. It's to give what you didn't get.
Mm.
give what you didn't get, and you will get what you didn't get. Why? Because the feeling will be there. I never had a really nice uncle or aunt. Well, then be a nice uncle or aunt. You're just now on the other end of it. Instead of being the niece or nephew, now you're the uncle or aunt, and now you get to feel that circuit of love and energy and fun and curiosity and discovery and all of that sharing, making those memories. Now you're part of it.
It's the
Change.
quickest way to that experience by doing that.
I do it because look, I've had a few key people that showed up in my life. I just couldn't pay attention very long. I didn't think I had ADD or anything, whatever that means. I just was always on this trick of like when I became a musician, it was like, oh, you showed me 5 chords. Okay, I'm going to form a band now. Because I had to get on stage. It was like, no, I don't need to know 10 chords. I'll figure them out as I go. I have a message. I have a thing. It's about the energy. I didn't know how to put it to people, but I couldn't stay in any lessons for too long. I was that type of person. Um, and I just accepted that. And as I've gotten older, I'm 54, and as I've gotten older, I've realized that age is a number. It's what you make it. And you can find the magic in that number. Study numerology, you'll find the magic in that number. I really appreciate, I just want to stop and say, I really appreciate you, Chrissy, because you're letting me flow. And
I
that's,
love it. It's you are in your
thank you for that.
element. You are in your element. And one thing I've learned throughout the years is to let people speak and just be in their moment. That's the whole part of this. I don't want to
Mm.
interrupt you because there's so much wisdom and it's so just it's organic. It's powerful. And I don't want to interrupt that power when it's going. It feels it
You know, yeah, organic.
it
That's a,
really is. I'm constantly wanting to learn more. I'm constantly seeking different perspectives. I want to be cracked open, if you will. And I use that term because I do. And I just finished reading almost The Shaman's Path to Freedom by Don Jose Ruiz, Don Miguel's son.
uh-huh.
And
Oh,
I'm going to have him on the podcast here soon,
awesome.
shortly.
I will watch.
And everything you said is very similar to what he mentioned with which is you can't have your hair a certain way. You can't wear eyeliner or whatever because people start judging this thing of this package of what you're supposed to look like, and
Oh
this
my God. And especially you're
it's
supposed
so
to be spiritually
ridiculous.
amazing.
You can't listen to hard rock or heavy metal, or you can't listen to this. You're supposed to be in this,
What is
and
spiritual music anyway? What is it, just kirtans? No. And listening to, Sirius XM, spa channel? No. It's very good, by the way. You like that channel.
yeah,
But sometimes I gotta listen to my hip hop and I gotta listen to
yes,
Indian music, or because all of that is connecting to some frequency of my spirit, which I am the spirit, right? I don't have a soul, I am the soul. So let's talk about shamanism a little bit.
yes.
It's very interesting because we do see a lot of people saying, I'm a shaman, I'm a this shaman, I'm a that shaman. I wanted to open up a noodle restaurant and call it the Ramen Shaman.
You need to do that. That
That's
I
gonna
would I
be.
would eat there.
What did you eat there? The
I
ramen
would
shaman?
I would absolutely. I love
Healing
that.
in a bowl. The word shaman. What is the shaman supposed to look like? Well, we all can, if you type it into Google, you might get pictures of people wearing feathers and carrying beads and playing a drum. And yes, that's looks like what we tend to think a shaman looks like. But your third grade teacher, Mrs. So and so, who had that spark in her eye that said something to you or saw you and you felt seen, she was a shaman. She didn't have to be dark skinned. She didn't have to be indigenous. What does indigenous mean anyway? What does it mean? Before all our tribes got here when we were Neanderthals? So maybe they're the true indigenous people. They're the Neanderthals. Who was before the Neanderthals? Maybe they were indigenous to that land. I mean, what is all that about? Why are all these labels? I'm indigenous to Northridge, California. because I was born there. Well, your ancestors weren't born there. Yeah, but I am. I grew up, not me personally, but I'm indigenous to Harlem. I was born in Harlem, in New York City. So am I indigenous to Harlem? I would say I am because I breathed that air, drank that water, walked on that ground, loved it and hated it, just like any other normal human being. So I don't follow that, even though people say I should, but I don't live by other people's belief systems, clearly. I live by my own. So your shaman can be the person who works at the cupcake store that puts a smile on your face or says something to you. And we can't get too hung up on that word because we're living in the West. So we adopt these words in the English language. Now it'll be an English word. Maybe it'll be a Hindi word and it'll be a Lithuanian word one day. I hope it does actually become a word that is spoken in many languages because it just refers to someone who's helping you consciously to surrender to the truth and the beauty and the power and the magic and the grace of who and what it is that you are. The word guru, and I'm Indian 100% on both sides. I have roots that go way back into Mongolia, Africa, Persia, but I'm Indian, both my parents born and raised. It's probably 500, 600 years or more. But I'm connected to other cultures. Like sometimes I feel very Irish, believe it or not. I feel very connected to my Celtic past lives. So I have a lot of Celtic things in my home. My parents didn't. Why was I drawn to that? The music came naturally to me, like I could play it and sing it and like, what? So I had this very strong past life, but I came back as this dark-skinned man. So I don't personally, my personal practices, when I see people as I know that this is an interesting costume that they're wearing for this lifetime, whether they are in the costume of what some people call um, indigenous or some people call colonizers or some people call whatever they want to call it. I look past that. I go, so this is the costume you're going to wear this time. How attached to it are you? Because you know on the other side, you're not this. You're not this, what you think you are, this looking in the mirror. You're more. And you don't have to take my word for it. Why don't you use your own logic? Is this what you think you're on the other side, that we're still separated by bloodlines? What is the awakening anyway? Is it still about who's right and who's wrong? Or is it about whether you know how to have peace in all situations? So shamans can help you to do that. I have done everything from channeling to energy work to taking people. I have a company called Sacred Earth Retreats with my wife, Araya, who's an empath and a shaman herself. And we take people to places like the pyramids in Egypt, the stone circles in Ireland, come to mention it. We're going to Japan in April and going to have that spiritual retreat in Sedona and Shasta, all those places, right? And then we do plant medicine journeys, which are helping people to really heal their trauma and to really come into a new space of freedom. These are very, very important things that you're going to see if you don't know about it now. Watch documentaries on Netflix, How to Change Your Mind, Fantastic Fungi, just do the research. The sacred ceremonies of healing from the tribal cultures, which is not just people who look like me, it also comes from Europe and Iceland and Greenland and down into Africa. All of this commonality in healing is coming to the forefront in modern society. And it's going to begin to replace a lot of the meds. Is going to help people come to the place of inner peace on the individual level. So we're taking our hooks out of people that you need to act a certain way, whether it's you're close to me or you're not close to me, for me to be happy. It's no longer going to be about you make me feel something. You made me feel this or you made me feel that. We're going to change that vocabulary into what you said, Chrissy, which was, hey, that triggered this. That triggered this rather than you made me. And then we can have a discussion because if someone says to you, hey, you triggered this in me, then you can have a discussion because now you don't have to defend yourself because of something you said or didn't say. You could say, okay, let's unpack it. Can we unpack it? And what I'm so amazed with is Gen Z and the next generations that are coming, they are bringing their gifts in which is a certain different kind of sensitivity than we came up with. We had our own sensitivities, and they have their own sensitivities. And we'll be gone, and this will be their world. And one day they'll be gone, and it'll be the next generation's world.
Right.
This is how it goes. So we have to, one piece of advice I would say to people is listen to people older than you and listen to people younger than you. This will help you.
They all have something to teach us.
Yeah,
Everybody. I would like to talk quickly. I know we're kind of stretching time here, but I really wanted to
we
speak
are
on since you
in
brought
like
this
10
up.
minutes.
Hey, I could go all afternoon. I love it. So I've had one experience with plant medicine. It was right around, it was 2021, I believe. And her name is Maria Chavez. She's just an amazing human being. And I was very scared because, like I mentioned to you before, I've never been in those elements in my life, and I didn't know what to expect. But I knew one thing to be certain. I wanted to get to the root of why I was the way I was. I mean, yeah, I was raised in a very loving family. I'm adopted, by the way. I was adopted when I was 3 months old, and
Mm.
my birth mother passed on. I found out many years later, nine months after giving me up for adoption. So
Was
she's
she in
very,
America?
yes, she's not originally from here. I believe the family originally is from England and Yugoslavia, and she moved over here. And I had an affair with a man at a restaurant, and he was married and had two kids. And so, long story short, she got pregnant with me. At least had the wherewithal to give me up for adoption, thank God. And I was placed with a beautiful family from Illinois. But
Uh-huh.
I found out she had passed on 9 months after giving me up for adoption. And
Oh,
yeah, there's so many. I wrote a book about this. There's so many, it's
oh,
coming
I
out.
need to see that book.
It's
Okay.
coming out in 4 weeks, but there's so many little things that happened along the way that I know it was all divinely orchestrated. The way that this all unfolded in the family that I was placed with, to me searching for my birth family
Chrissy,
for
you're
ever.
like this light ship, shooting star energy. Imagine this ball of light moving through all the dimensions and galaxies of all the multiverses and saying, there they are, those two in that restaurant. And you went, oh,
That's that's how I feel. I really
what you
is. I
did.
really
That's the truth.
feel. I
Yeah.
feel that it all happened, and that's why I've never felt sadness or anything. If anything, when I found out she passed away, I kept thinking, "Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for having."
Mm, mm,
Because
mm.
I couldn't imagine being a mom, giving birth, and then giving up that child. I could not even fathom. I'm not a mother, so I don't even know that, but I couldn't put myself there because that must be
Sure.
horrific. But she did that. And it really sparked this whole new life. And it goes back to even like what you mentioned earlier, nurture versus nature. My family is so different from me. Like, the things that I've always been attracted to or drawn to are so different, but I was raised by them since I was 3 months old. So it's really interesting dynamic, but I'm going off subject here. But long
No,
story,
no, no, because you're talking about the journey of the soul.
yes.
You're
And
not off
so
the subject. You're
I
you're talking
just
about the journey of the soul.
I knew that I wanted to go really deep with myself because
Hmm.
I didn't know. Therapists kept telling me I probably have abandonment issues, and I kept thinking I don't feel that though, but I'm being
No, you
told.
were simply like, no, actually, this place doesn't feel big enough for me to freaking explode everything that I have inside of me. I'm not pissed. I'm just excited and a little frustrated.
Yes, you're the first person to verbalize what my soul has felt my entire life, and I have had every therapist tell me
Hmm.
you have abandonment issues because you were adopted and that's the problem. And I'm like, no, but it's not. I don't feel abandoned. I never felt that. If anything, I felt so much gratitude that she was able to be so selfless to give me up to my family. And I'm so
Well,
grateful for that
well, go back to
experience.
the medicine ceremony. So you did it. You were
Right.
afraid.
So
Anything, any gems you want to, or funny story?
I started having an experience with people on the other side. And I was raised in a devout Christian family. So
Uh,
you don't have these conversations with your
yeah,
aunts and uncles about this.
yeah,
But it's something I've always felt very connected to. And so
right.
now it all came full circle for me. And there was this beautiful healing that took place inside that I can't even describe, verbalize what that healing felt like for me. And so
Mm.
I became a very big advocate for these journeys if used accordingly by
Done with
the
the right
right
intention.
people with the
Yeah.
right intention. And so that was in 2021. And it's just now we're going in 3 years later. I've been called again, and I'm looking forward to my next journey this year, wherever that's going to be. But
Yeah.
I would just love for you to speak more on the process, because I've had a lot of people on this podcast who have had experiences with plant medicine, who've had profound shifts and awakening, overcoming addictions,
Yeah,
overcoming
people are
a lot
afraid
of
that those plant medicines are going to worsen their addiction. No, I've led people who have been in the 12 steps. I've led people who have been into 3 rounds of rehab in the centers all around Southern California. You know how much those things cost? They start at
30,000,
30,000 a month.
30,000 a month. I have a friend who went actually.
The best ones are 100,000 a
Yeah.
month. Okay. And I've had people who've done it several times, and I've had people who had to do down in the hood going to the treatment center. Okay. The point is that that's because it keeps working with the conscious mind rather than the soul, the spirit that you are, the eternalness that you are. What they tend to do is that you did things that were wrong and you messed up your life and everybody else's life. And so now, and by the way, you have to say for the rest of your life that you're an addict or an alcoholic. You have to say it. Well, so if you haven't done something in 20 years, you're still that. So if you haven't told a lie in 20 years, you're still a liar because you told it 20 years ago. Well, no, because this is a disease. No, it's a dis-ease, but it's not a disease. It is dis-ease. It is the disconnection. It is the disregard for the eternalness and the power and the magic of what you are, and that this is you have never been in the wrong place at the wrong time because you think that you were. And I'm just here to offer you another perspective. Take it or leave it. I'm just going to tell you, you were never in the wrong place at the wrong time. It has never happened once, even if you almost died. I'm speaking from my experience. This goes for me too. And I've had some heart-wrenchingly, sickeningly painful experiences in my life. So I'm no exception. It's the reason I'm here talking about this. So it was the only thing that healed me. And I'm a medium, by the way. We haven't talked a lot about mediumship, but maybe another time. Everybody, you guys can check me out online. So even as a medium, getting over the deaths of people who were closest to me. One would say, well, you must have had an easier time. I don't know. I don't think so. It was horrible. You have to grieve. And then if you don't know how to heal from that for yourself, this is before I became a shaman, that plant medicine experience healed me. I finally found my connection to God, not through what religion I was supposed to like. It was through my direct connection to the eternal energy of goodness and love. And that was through the plant medicine ceremony. It was, I'd found a peace and a feeling and a joy I had never known. And I'm telling you something. I have meditated. I could meditate sitting in the snow for 5 hours. I've done a lot of extreme meditation to show how focused and to teach students and all of those things. But I will tell you something, even being a trance channeler, even being a psychic medium, proven for over close to 20 years, nothing came close to the information and the experience, the personal experience of healing that I got through those ceremonies. And so then I studied it for 3 years, and then I began leading people, and I've led close to 2,000 ceremonies. This is over the course of 16 to 17 years. Now it's very becoming much more in vogue, which is I'm glad because I really wanted it to become more in vogue. Wanted to get to the masses, but I was just me saying to you, I have a lot of experience in it. And what I've come to understand is that your trauma, guys, is your training. Don't see your trauma anymore as just simply trauma. It was your training to bring you to the higher version of yourself that is more open, more aware, more clear, more conscious, more connected, therefore more free and more peaceful and more powerful, because your power is simply how peaceful you are. That's what it helped me to do. And so I work with people to do that also. I believe that it is the future of our wellness for everyone. It's not a People go, well, I want to do the work. Believe me, you're going to do the work even when you do the ceremony. In fact, you're going to do the work in a way you've never done it before. Am I right,
Right.
Chrissy?
Oh my gosh.
It's not that you do the plant medicine and suddenly you're like, I'm Buddha. No, that'll happen, but it's going to be
Oh,
after you've gone through a little bit of hell during that experience.
a lot. And I am going to be taking another journey this year, as I mentioned. And so I'm excited to see that next level of progression because I'm always seeking more and more. And it really,
Okay.
what it is, it's more understanding of what I've found for myself personally is the past 6 months. I'm getting very good at naturally being in peace in moments that I would normally have reacted. I'm
Yeah.
able to now sit in almost like a neutral zone and
Mm.
just observe. And for the
Mm.
longest time, Riz, I was never like that. And now
Yeah.
I can see, I can witness, I can feel, and I don't need to react. And I feel that the plant medicine allowed, at least it opened me up
Absolutely.
for that
So,
journey that I've experienced.
do you want to know what's more? What's beyond that?
What?
Well, the natural world isn't done with us. The natural earth world is not done with us till we die. So you're never going to stop eating cucumbers. If you like cucumbers, you're never going to stop eating vegetables or fruits. And each of those natural elements that we call food has a purpose and has a plan and has a positive energy for us. So don't put the medicines, the sacred medicines of the planet in any other category than that, that they're always there for you to continue to nourish you. You will discover how endless everything is as you do conscientious, planned ceremonies, because there's always more.
Mm.
Never know. You can create it as a painter, you can create an entire body of work that's amazing. And then you're going to go into a new period of your work. You're going to go, oh, then I went into my other period of work where my work totally changed. And I didn't even know that was there. So it is the endlessness that is so fascinating. You might have a journey where you think it's all going to be rainbows and unicorns. And it's just you go, wow, there was more tears. I didn't know there were more tears. And that's okay. Tears aren't negative. If they're there, let's cry them out. You also may discover there's even more laughter. You might discover you're quite a comedian. You may discover that there's some interests that you never knew you didn't have access to. So it's about having access to more infinite endlessness of yourself. And that's what happens all your journeys are not about trauma healing. You will always heal some in the very first few journeys, but then there's more because healing work is not just about fixing what was broken or wrong or missing. That's the initial stage. What if our healing work went into different conversations? The spirit guides have come through me and said, don't you ever wonder what the circle of light would be like if it wasn't about solving a problem? And everyone was like, wait, what does the spirit guide mean by that? And Red Eagle said, exactly. You think all of this is just about solving a problem. It's not. It's about, do you know there's more colors in your crayon box? Do you know there's more melodies that are going to come through you? And you will find so much fulfillment in that because it's not about you're trying to get something. It's more the discovery. And so this is where I say, continue with that. I recommend for everyone at least once a year. Do it for the rest of your
Mm.
life. That's not that, that's not that many.
No, it's like peeling back an onion, like these layers just keep coming off, and you
Yeah.
get to the root, and you're like, wow, like you just said, like you just have another level of
Yeah.
exposure that
Yes.
you never felt before.
Yes.
I'm fascinated by it. When's your next retreat coming up this year?
Oh, so I have a few retreats. I do personal one-on-one plant medicine work with people. That's here in the Southern California area. My shamanic retreats, we have three to Sedona this year, three to Mount Shasta this year. Those are the local retreats. We have a Joshua Tree retreat. I channel an extraterrestrial wise group of beings that are called the Friends. They call themselves the Friends, and they come through with this amazing information. That's my new book. It's called The Echelon Speak, and they refer to themselves as part of a group called the Echelon, and they are answering questions. This is a trance channeled state. I'm channeling them. They are answering questions from the group, and we put it in book format. So you can get it on Amazon, on
Mm.
Kindle, and in paperback form. And when I take people to Joshua Tree in April, We're going to be doing a night UFO sky watch. I'm going to be channeling. We're going to have the infrared, binoculars. It's going to be amazing. So you can find all that info on my socials.
Yeah, and I'll have all those links in the show notes for everybody to click and ready to go. This is exciting. We didn't even touch on half the stuff that I mean, we didn't even touch
There's
on
the other
alien.
half is part two, Chrissy.
This is a part two. We have aliens coming into play. We
Oh
have
my God. Did you guys ever? I certainly thought it was going to happen, but certainly people who were like my friends who always were like, Riz is the UFO alien guy. He always says that it was real. And now there are government hearings with actual military personnel showing you videos of these objects. And there's much more that's going to be revealed this year. It's going to be a very fascinating year.
I'm not going to even start with the questions right now because I want to leave it right there so we
Okay.
can segue into a part two, which will be all about aliens and what's to come.
Happy to
That's
do it.
that's going to be fascinating. And I just saw a thumbs up right in your screen.
Thank you
I love it.
so much. It's been so great being here with you guys.
Riz, I cannot thank you enough. And thank you to Erica and thank you to your wife. Araya, is that her name?
That's how you say
Araya.
it, Brian. Yeah.
Araya. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, ladies. I just have had such a wonderful experience. I could keep going on and on and on, but we'll
I'm
save
looking
that
forward to
for
next
part
time, and
two.
I'm so happy for the work that you're doing and you guys listening to Chrissy's work. It's just I can feel the energy at which your audience is vibrating at, which is very high vibe and receiving, and I'm glad to be a part of it in some small way. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so
Bless.
much. I appreciate you.
Be well.
Be well. For more on Riz Mirza, head on over to rizmirza.com. That's RIZMIRZA.com. You can also follow him on Instagram at Psychic Riz the Wiz. And there are some underscores in that handle. So just look him up, Psychic Riz the Wiz. There will be the links in the show notes. I always hook you guys up. You don't need to go searching, but for those of you who just like to live life on your own terms, there you go. And if you would not mind, please remember to give it a 5-star. This podcast is growing in massive ways because of you guys sharing with other people. I appreciate you. I appreciate your support. If you wouldn't mind taking a moment today just to give it a little 5-star, I think we have like 431 5-stars right now. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you so much. And if you wouldn't mind leaving a quick review, that would be so gracious of you. Make it a beautiful and prosperous day, friends. Much love.